Okay, I love that. I just resent the live to Mark to Mark at Water Bear Medicine. Except, thank you.
I've no idea what happened there.
No, I do know what
Craziness.
happened there. So because of what I
Yeah.
said, okay, and I said a
Okay.
defrog. So let's start again. Let me reintroduce everything, okay? Because this is the one we're going to upload to YouTube. So let me start from the beginning. Okay, be patient with me. Please share the live. I know what happened, and I'm not going to waste time on the bullshit. Okay, so
Yeah.
what
Let's get
is
to it.
happening? Yeah, let's get to it. So this live is about the hedonistic qualities that has infiltrated the New Age movement. We are using Aubrey Marcus not as a punching bag, but as an archetype of what has been going on with the hedonistic fuckery that is really confusing people in their 20s and 30s who are waking up to the new to a new concept of what is my spiritual life, what am I here for, and they are now setting foot. One foot is in the New Age movement, and another foot is in hedonistic philosophical word bullshit, word diarrhea on what ascension means. And part of it is polyamory, swapping, watching people do it, and so on, as an incredible way to destroy your jealousy. Okay? And so Aubrey Marcus, excuse me, dropped a podcast with Mark Gaffney, a defrocked rabbi thrown out of Israel. That should tell you something, because he was doing inappropriate shit with underage girls. Number one. He's on the, if you want to look up the interview yourself, then go on Dr. Phil interviews Mark Gaffney, Gafni. This is very important for you to listen to this bullshit, okay? Because then you look at Aubrey Marcus on ketamine and this and that and having all. If you want to watch the first one that I did on the bullshit, it's on my YouTube channel, Sacred Intimacy Tarot. This is not to pitch. We're not here to create chaos. We are here, me and Mark, a divine masculine, we're both on our healing journeys, and we're here to create solutions. But in the solution, we have to expose the chaos. Now, that podcast that was dropped by Aubrey Marcus, I don't know. He's definitely the emperor with no clothes. And we all said, dude, you're nude. You're full of shit. And so when you watch the interview with Valana, his wife, who he can, and Mark's going to go into detail, Water Bear Medicine's going to go into massive detail as all the research. He did amazing research to make sure we weren't talking out of our ass. And there's a second interview now that he does with his ex-fiance on the payroll, I might add, on his podcast to say what a great man he is and what a sweet soul and how this has been a witch hunt. The aftermath. Let me go ahead and read what his comment was. Good morning. Please share the live. Please share the live and tap the screen so we can get some action. This is really, really important. Okay? Okay. The aftermath of the infamously viral podcast about my post-conventional whatever. The aftermath about my post-conventional relationship with my beloved wife, Alana, and Alana Beal has been one of the hardest months of my life. It forced me to ask deep, penetrating questions. If you don't mind, put this on mute because there's a lot of background noise. So I'm gonna mute you. Penetrating questions about who I am at the core of my being. The process has been profoundly alchemical, a kind of calcination where all the bullshit parts are burnt away and the real truth remains. What you will see in this podcast with my former fiancé and current best friend, Caitlin Howe, is an honest exploration of all the vulnerabilities, cracks, faults, mistakes of a real living, breathing human being. I'm thankful for this process, not just for the outpouring of love and support, but for sharp critique that help excavate what is really under the surface if you have the courage to look. I'm not sorry for being who I am, but I'm deeply sorry for everyone who's been hurt by people who didn't have the courage or awareness to know their truth. I've been on both sides as a person that has been hurt, that has hurt people, and as a person who's been hurt by people. My prayer is that their story can in some way inspire that same alchemical process of self-inquiry and clarification so there can be less pain and more beauty in a world that desperately needs to balance the scales. Thank you for following this story. Thank you for your precious time and attention. Whether it has been in anger or love, it has all been medicine. Thank you. Go ahead. Let me.
Great
Water Bear, what
intro.
do you want to say? How do
Can you hear
just?
me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. Just go ahead and jump into whatever you want. This was just what's going on. I'm trying to get the background noise to a level of nothing, like zero. If you don't
It's
mind.
okay. It's okay. I'm going to move rooms so that we can hear without background
Okay.
noise.
Okay. Perfect.
So what we know, and really, this is not about calling out their relationship. It's about the fact that they're publicly promoting the polyamory and the effect that it's going to have. Because originally, sorry, now I've got motorbikes in the background. Craziness.
Okay.
Is that better? Is it quiet now?
Yeah. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you.
So if it was just about their relationship and there wasn't really anything going on apart from a private conversation of telling me what was happening in his private life, this has got nothing to do with me. You know, you don't gossip on that sort of thing, but this is not gossip. This is protective measures to help the people in the world and how they can navigate this situation, because there's been a bit of gaslighting going on, not just the partner in his life that's having to kind of see the bait and switch happen. So let me just go through the timeline of what I know, right? Yolanda mentions that she went through her spiritual awakening in 2016. In 2020 was when Aubrey Marcus left his last relationship, and then in early 2021 he met Alana in late 2020, and then early 2021 they engaged. I don't know how long they were
2 weeks.
together for
They got
before
married 2
they
weeks.
were engaged.
They were friends.
Yeah.
And they were friends, and she was like, "You're with a girlfriend. What are you doing? I'm monogamous. I'm not playing this game." And within 2 weeks of him saying, "No, I'll be monogamous for you. I will do what you need." And I wanted you to talk about what you saw in an interview that he did. They married within 2 weeks in Las Vegas. Las Vegas seems to be the place that everyone is impressed by. The place that everyone is impressed by, which is really, I'm judging. Sorry, I'm going to be a judgmental bitch. Really, Las Vegas, not fucking Cancun, not fucking Hawaii, not fucking the Bahamas, not fucking Barbados. I don't know, man. I don't know about you, but if I'm going to be impressed and swept off my feet, we're not going to Las Vegas, okay? And we're not going to the fake city. And what happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas, Sin City. No fucking way. But that's where they got married by, I think it was an Elvis or some person. Anyway, go ahead, run with it, because I'm like so triggered.
It's okay. It's okay. So look, if I dart around timeline wise, forgive me, but it needs to come out the right way. So in April 2023, there was an interview that Aubrey Marcus did, and he declared in that interview that he was done with polyamorous relationships. He'd had a very damaging, emotionally hurtful experience with his wife at the time, Whitney, and basically they separated over it. She had gone with a man and he couldn't handle it, and he said that he would, and he also mentioned that he met Alana and said he's done with that, he wouldn't be involved in that. So why did he publicly declare that? Either he's changed his mind later on, or he was being disingenuous. Now, we can only assume that he's trying to tell the truth and be genuine, right? So then what happens? Just picking up my notes. Yeah. And then obviously at some point later on, early in 2024, so less than a year later, he's meeting up with Alana and they're looking for a third person, which must be because she has been convinced into fulfilling his desire and suppressing her own desire. That seems to be what's going on. She made lots of statements in different interviews more recently, one from 8 months ago, where she says that she could not do what her spirit came here to do if she was not in this relationship with Aubrey. And this happened after being separated for 3 months, which she said was very painful. And then in this interview, this is recorded 8 months ago on YouTube, she mentions that she's been in really challenging relationships with lots of betrayal. And when I am going to get, and she said, when am I going to get taken out and the rug's pulled from underneath me? Nobody seems to have my best interests. How many times that she was hiding her feelings instead of sharing her intimacy and being vulnerable.
Right.
And then when she was honest, with Aubrey, clearly that got betrayed, because at this point in the situation, we're seeing her feeling not center of the relationship, not cherished like she wants to be. And that is so clearly reflected by all of his loyal followers in the comments, who were clearly watching every episode from the beginning of his journey to now, right?
It's interesting.
I mean, what is it?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna say something. I'm actually on the website on my page, right, on my laptop, and I'm looking at the response of people, him talking to Caitlyn, who was his ex-fiance, and they discuss how, again, Caitlyn wanted to be polyamorous, but she was wild. She was like, they're telling me to say it. Okay, so my guys are saying she was a sacred slut. Okay, I'm gonna put it that way, so you get the context. But she was more into serial monogamy. Okay, so is what I'm getting. Okay, now she's right now as we speak, when she's interviewing Aubrey Marcus, she is in a monogamous relationship, which she states, I prefer. Now let me read you some of the comments of the people talking, because everyone is crying for Aubrey Marcus, right? All his circle of people, the emperor is no clothes, and if you are below us, you can't see his ephemeral clothes because you're a low pleb. That's basically how we're being treated. Look at the comments of where people are saying. Caitlyn empathically extended a hand to place on his knee in comfort, yet no one, in capital letters, comforted Valana as she bawled her eyes out. That is everything you need to know about the capacity of his empathy. Why are we saying that? Because why are we doing that? I'm going to tell you why I'm doing this, and then maybe you can jump in and tell people why you're doing this talk. I'm doing this talk because I've walked this walk to look at polyamory for my partner, to see what it was. And in my research, I saw women in their 40s gifting a man, a younger version of themselves, to bed. That is a lack of self-worth. That is a lack of love, even though it was hurting them. The New Age community has betrayed the sacred divine feminine in supporting this shit. Because it's not coming from, I'm a freak, I like to fuck women, I like to fuck men, let's bring a chick in, hey, she's hot. It's one thing when a woman is of that, and there is a woman like that, actually, that is actually teaching hedonistic tantra. They call it neo-tantra. I call it hedonistic tantra. Let's call it for what it is. And I've been interviewed by her, by the way. And she's a nice woman, okay? And she likes to fuck. She has not one spiritual backbone. She doesn't believe in reincarnation. She doesn't believe in a lot of shit. But she's teaching tantra, which is a spiritual method of making love. Why am I saying all this?
Her intentions were clear, though, right? Let's get it down.
Yeah.
That her intentions were pure insofar as she was in alignment with who she was. She was being authentic.
Absolutely.
Many people might not agree with her. She was, but she was being authentic.
Exactly, and she was not trying to appease any masculine. She is a freak by her own admission, and so that's what she teaches. Now, that's honest, and though I definitely don't agree with it. But my point to you is, I'm trying to make sure that young women don't go down the rabbit hole that we're seeing Valana literally explode, implode, and search within herself what is her truth. Now, one of the things Aubrey Marcus said that I think is disgusting is if she leaves him in a divorce, she doesn't get one dime. She walks in with the money she came. If she was broke and struggling when she walked in,
I don't know that that's true, but if that is, then that's not very nice for him to do that. That's manipulative, right?
It is true. He actually says it in that podcast where he comes back trying to make right. He actually says it. And so my point is, because at that point, so why are we saying that? Because he's not, Aubrey Marcus is literally an archetype of many Buddha bun-wearing motherfuckers who have used polyamory as a spiritual gateway to their own lust. Period. And we were trying to make sure that young women and young men, because it goes further, because with the woke culture, we've got young men asking themselves if they're bisexual. And you know,
so what's happened? Go on, Kieran.
No. So when my answer, I'm gonna give you a quick answer. I've been doing this. Do you want to eat pussy? No, I don't. Okay, well then you're not bisexual. Do you want to suck dick? No, I don't. You see what I'm saying? It's that simple. You may like the body of a woman. You may like the body of a man. You may meet a soulmate that was once your lover and same gender. But you got to ask yourself a very simple fucking question: would you go down on them? Oh fuck no. Okay, well then that you're fine. You're not going to, you don't want to go into bisexual nature. But the new age community, and this is what I detest about these motherfuckers, is that they're taking deviant shit, or bisexually is not deviant. Don't fucking take it out of context. But they're trying to twist people's fucking minds about what is good for them sexually, personally. And I know how incredibly damaging that, damaging that can be to a young mind.
So
trying to navigate.
I wanted to talk about the I want to talk about the dynamics of it, and then get into the emotion of that. Can I unpick that a bit?
Please, go for it.
Like in the spiritual community, the desire to rise to a place of celebrity, to bask in the glory of one's own achievement and acknowledgements, it's been proven again and again. With that great power comes great responsibility, and your power as that guru with authority and the master of what you preach. It's so easy. As you level up each step, you get taken down by the almost ironic temptation that comes across your path. Every guru, every person that has got to that level of power in celebrity is given this test to see if they are spiritually pure enough, or what. I mean, ultimately, he might still heal from this. He might still come through this, but it's been incredibly damaging for him because he hasn't seen the temptation as a shadow, as a reflection of his shadow.
But
can you see that? So
I see what you're. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Let me know, because
so it's right. So what this comes down to is spiritual accountability, the unexamined, unowned shadow. His inner compass, or like, let's just call it for what it is. Your inner compass, all right, is to realize where you have abandoned the sacred love and the connection that you have built. He's abandoned that, right?
Right.
So, I wanted to go through some personal reflections because I don't know how he feels. I can see this from my analysis in my mind, but the feelings are all mine. Do you know what I mean? It's impossible for me. It's impossible for me to say anything else. So all this live is going to be going on the YouTube channel so that people can follow it from the very beginning. But just a quick recap. We are going over the Aubrey Marcus situation and how his original declaration of love and devotion to Alana has been ultimately betrayed because he now wants a polyamorous relationship, and he's dealing with the public back.
I want to cut you off because I don't want you to forget this, and I don't want to forget. Please talk about where you saw him being interviewed with the CEO or whatever it was called. Go ahead, tell them.
Oh yeah, the Diary of a CEO in April 2023. The actual name of the video says "The Surprising and Unbelievable Dark Side of Open Relationships." That is the name of the video, and in it he declares how much he got hurt in a polyamorous relationship where his ex-partner Whitney slept with another man, and how it hurt him, and how he was done with relationships, and now in his current relationship he's devoted to Alana. That was in April 2023.
Alana.
And so exactly, his now wife. And as you unfold all of this situation, you get to see really how emotionally dysregulated he is, how he lacks real intention, because what he's doing is letting his thirst, his lust, his desire be his compass of action, of how he chooses to act. Now, look, I can understand how intoxicating it is, because it is, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't ascend into honoring your mind, your intentions, and your heart, your feelings, right? Your real love connection that you foster with another. And you've obviously, I know that you've had a loving connection with another in your divine counterpart, right? You've been married before you met your twin, who's now no longer on the plane. So your twin rays, is that right?
Right.
Yeah. And so you absolutely know what it's like to have love in your heart, and to know that that love in your heart isn't just the love in your heart, it's mirrored. They're feeling it too. There's no doubt in your mind. That is that awareness of that connection. And I find it kind of shocking, actually. My awareness of this betrayal is that she was saying in another interview more recently, 8 months ago, this one was, she was saying how she could feel the deep despair and hurt in him. And I think the problem was that she was getting a reflection of how emotionally challenged he was, like not feeling safe and unregulated. And there wasn't honesty about that.
But they're taking counseling from Mark Gaffney. Do you understand? And so you've got a man who's never had successful relationships. I don't care who he's married to. Okay, I don't care who he actually did a slip up on while he was counseling Villana and Aubrey. But my point here, they are in.
I haven't got to the boo boo they did in the video, which I would like to, but carry on.
Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead. You go for it.
Yeah, so in watching this video, there's one bit where she gets really emotional and starts crying, and just before that happened, I hear the Mark Daphne, who's like the spiritual guru priest in their relationship, sort of guiding them, and he's saying something, and then she's laughing, and it didn't add up. And I rewound it, and his lips never moved. And then the laughter happened, and his lips never moved. And then the laughter happened, and she's crying. And I'm like, hold on a minute. They're trying to gaslight this video situation to make it less intense about her feelings than it really is. I don't know. I found that incredibly strange. And the time on the video was 1:44, almost like it was a spiritual sign that we should notice this. I just don't quite understand why they edited that bit of video. What he said was inconsequential, but what it did was it was a demonstration of lightening the spirit and not making me feel that she was in such deep hurt.
Right.
And clearly she was, because what she said, and I've got it written here, that she was so worried that she wasn't going to get chosen in the relationship, and that she was concerned about betrayal. And it wasn't until after the 3 months of separation that she started to feel like she could trust him, and that he was committed to her. And there was no mention of polyamory at all in this video 8 months ago. And I found that again.
They were in it. They were already.
Yeah,
that's why
Nalani is here saying. Yeah, sorry, Nalani's saying that the original love was androgynous, which I guess means just physical and lust, right? Yeah.
No, but I mean, when you look at the reason why he's a poster child that the universe has handed to us on a silver platter. Him, Villana, and Alana. This story has been replayed for thousands of years, but in particular in the last, I'd say 50 years. I think it's accurate to say that. During the free love movement in the 1960s with the pill, blah, 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 and people dropping acid and shit like that. But it went fucking totally off the rails, because what he's doing, what's going on with Aubrey, is he is the archetype of every Buddha bun wearing MFer who has tried to convince a woman that it was her problem, not his. And you're seeing that played out again. This is why we're using him as an example, because he put himself out there. But most importantly, to teach many women and men, because if you look at Vilana, she's the one turning inside out as a pretzel, putting herself down for losing her shit. Losing
Yeah.
her shit.
I mean,
Now,
I do believe that they were in love in the beginning, but
yeah.
he's just all over the place. He can't keep it in his pants, sort of thing. That's the problem.
Yeah, but he tries eros. They keep using the word eros. They're using a lot
Yeah.
of very evocative words. Like they're master. I'll give them that. They fucking know how to use words that make you feel like, well, maybe I could be wrong. Let me read you a quote of something. Somebody said, I would have been more interested in Vilana honest process, not the opinions of your ex-girlfriend on your character. Let me continue. Energy never lies. It's a massive teaching of discernment for everyone. The collective response wasn't an attack. It was calling it out, not in judgment, but as observers and listeners. If everyone was thrilled about the arrangement, it would have come through in the first podcast loud and clear. It just simply wasn't believable. And with all the spiritual wackadoodoo we saw and we called it, it made me love humanity even more because the wool can't be pulled over our eyes. There is an archetypal, an egregore, if you will, of I know better, you plebs are working class, fuck off, you don't know who we are. The Aubrey Marcus that we're seeing is the archetype of the spiritual man who comes in with his tattoos and his cash and tells you, or he could be broken homeless, who tells you that he is good because he knows how to parrot, Sanskrit, or he knows how to parrot quotes from Voltaire, and he knows all these beautiful words, and then he likes to cry in his masculinity. And let me tell you something.
I did notice that. Yeah, that the tears are really manipulative, unfortunately, but they are.
They're crocodile tears. I don't have a problem with a man crying. Both my beautiful men that I've loved, my son, I love men who cry to a point, just like I cry. I've cried in my lives. You've seen it. You've heard my voice. But I'm not going to fucking cry and cry and cry and cry. I mean, at some point you got to look at it and go, you're full of fucking shit, you piece of shit. And he is. He's a piece of shit. The problem is he doesn't own it because Vilana has to be okay with him chasing pussy and her hearing him make a woman go have the big O while she has to sit in her room and deal with it or go out with her other lover, Joshua, while he does what he does. But what I'm going to say to you is that this whole scenario, we're watching women bend over backwards and the man can just say, well, I have stallion energy. Well, dude, I have stallion energy too, but I keep my shit wrapped. I have stallion energy. Tons of women have in fact, in our 40s, which is Vilana's in her 40s now, with her lifting weights, getting endorphins, serotonin in her brain. Trust me, she wants to F now with her lifting weights, getting endorphins, serotonin in her brain. Trust me, she wants to F all day long. Trust me, any woman in her 40s will know. If you're not having that kind of joy in sex, get your hormones checked. Because I was fucking
I agree.
A rabbit, okay? So my point is, that's what you do, and it goes right into your 50s. You want to fucking do it every day. That is normal feminine evolution of her body
And
as she goes.
Yeah, I do, and I think it's about creating that strong bond with your partner to keep the marriage together, so that the children have a safe place, so that the husband is satisfied. These things are evolutionary, aren't they? I don't like the word evolutionary, but like you could say ordained by creation. That sounds much better, right? I keep looking at things like this and I go, what is it then? She must not be very clear on discerning like what it is.
No, but I mean,
he's too intoxicating.
Well, no,
there's too much going for. It's
the lifestyle.
The situation.
No, but sweetie, it's the lifestyle. She's on a barge in Egypt. When was the last time When was the last time you were on a barge in Egypt? No, I'm actually not being funny. I've
never been on a barge in Egypt.
I've never been on a barge in Egypt. Exactly. So my point is, so they're in a barge in Egypt. They're going to temples that only the few elite can go to because there's special dispensation. I know this for a fact. And so the lifestyle is intoxicating, not his dick. And they do have a soul, but they have the audacity to actually compare themselves as twin flames. Very
Yeah.
dangerous. Here we go again with the twin flame analogy. And so
So listen. Just ease off the pedal a little bit, because I want to get through some of the other thoughts and feelings that I had, and then we can kind of like discuss what is the way forward out of this. Because just to be traumatized by, you know, all of the kind of spiritual gaslighting that's gone on about, oh yeah, we're the divine union couple, wonderful, we're so devoted, we know how to have a loving connection relationship, we're going to do this 12-week program, come and join us, learn about how to have a divine partnership, which they did. And then they bring out the, oh, we can be in a divine partnership, you know, what do they call it, radical monogamy, right? And I look, I realise he said it should have been called radical fidelity, you know, or I don't know, relationship fidelity, something like being truthful and authentic about what you really want and your desires. Kind of what it boiled down to is, like, if you're lustful, say you're lustful. That's kind of where I saw it going. And it feels to me like when I was connecting with my heart and my emotions, that excitement was actually chaos. So they thought it was excitement, they thought it was newness, but it's the chaos. And what that does is it creates a lack of safety.
Yeah.
And then later she's going to feel regret and shame, and she's going to reflect on it about how she was betrayed again. Yeah. You know, and the thing that I've noticed is she must know what these red flags are, but she's choosing not to see them because it betrays the need of feeling secure in being in a relationship with all of the bells and whistles that she gets in that situation. So she's gaslighting herself because the loss would be more painful than numbing. That is the unfortunate truth of what I saw there. And then I kind of was looking at it and realizing that the wounds can heal in a relationship when you feel safe. But when you don't feel safe, when you feel you can't trust your partner, you get re-traumatized. So she's creating even more trauma for herself to heal, and probably doesn't feel safe. Clearly, she's not being open about how she feels hurt in that most recent recording.
Well, I'm just going to say that's not, you're making it sound cut and dry. And I'm going to back away from that and say to you, you have to understand who they're surrounded by. They have a retinue of yes people, and they all say yes to Aubrey. He doesn't have one Doc Hollis saying, dude, you're full of shit. What the fuck are you doing? Clearly.
Absolutely.
No, absolutely clearly. Everyone is saying, yes, Mark. Yes, Aubrey. Yes. Whatever you say, master. And you're the great guru, whatever, because he's sitting on $100 million. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me say, Dr. Mark Gaffney was brought in to make sure that he could transition from his one-on-one relationship into this divine throuple.
And so,
I believe that was the intention, right? He was used as that guide to help that happen. Yeah, but it's using spiritual, leadership, whatever. It's like this gaslighting situation in politics is where you have a leader that you think you can trust, and then what they do ends up being completely the opposite of what they promised. And we're getting the same shit happen with Dr. Mark Gaffney being this spiritual guru, leading her into feeling trust of him being the guide of her heart, and then saying it's okay, it's all right, because everything's saying it's okay, it's all right, because he's looking after you, everything's going to be great. And then in that 2023 interview, she's saying, I don't know where this is all going to end up. We could have kids and be divorced. So she's even seeding the red flags and the potential outcomes because she knows that stuff isn't how it should be. Doesn't line up with any model of what she believes to be safe.
Well, I mean, she doesn't. First of all, she doesn't like herself, and I'll tell you why. Because she kept multiple interviews going left and right. And this is something we women go through: is we're constantly second guessing our shit. When we have a disagreement with a man, not all men, but a lot of men, they'll say, "Oh, you're on your period, huh? Or your period's going to happen, or you just finished your period." Then it's menopause. So I saw that with her in multiple interviews throughout the years, her second guessing her passions, her rage. That because what is known in the narcissistic community is that the narcissist will push your buttons and calmly, with a very calm demeanor and voice, watch you fucking explode into an impotent rage. And then they remain very calm. They remain very collected. And they watch you as you fucking literally burn. And then what happens is shame, self-loathing and shame. I lost control. And she says it again and again. She talks about how she loses control. She drops it here and there. Like she's the one that's smudged. But Alana is so pure because she keeps it together. Alana is so what I'm seeing, and it's too bad too, because narcissists
that's validating the self-censorship. That's what they're doing, aren't they?
Right. Well, I mean, other ways to be loved, my friend. There's other ways to do X, Y, and Z, and you need to like maybe you do need to walk away from the money and the lifestyle. Maybe you will end up with a guy who only makes $80,000, but you are his fucking queen on a pedestal, and you guys will still go to Egypt. You'll still do a guys will still go to Egypt. You'll still do a barge, but it'll take 2 incomes. You know what I mean? And so that's what we need to understand. Is like this understanding that the money is the stand. Is like this understanding that the money is the trap in this case, because you're with a man who'd rather spend all his hours thinking about who he wants to fuck because he's on these multiple dating apps. And this is what's happening in New Age community. Okay, many of these men and some women are convincing their partners that this is the way to ascension. I'm sorry, chasing your sexual hangups and having multiple partners is not going to heal and ascend you. Dick control and pussy control is part of it. It's saying, I want divine union. I want divine sex. I want the sex to be tantric. I want it to fucking heal me, not fucking destroy me. She's dying. It's death by 1,000 cuts, and we're watching it in action, and we're freaking the fuck out as women. And some men are.
And look. I don't ever want to make it sound like I'm criticizing the way people look, because it really isn't about that. I think she's still a stunning, beautiful woman.
Absolutely.
But some of her light, some of her glow, has gone away in the past year.
It has.
It really has. It really has. She's coping. She's hiding and coping, believing that the what can I say? The comfort, the luxury, the glamour, the beauty, the potential success and celebrity, it will all be worth the self-censoring, the calming and the numbing of the heart and the spirit, and probably what is her subconscious screaming at her right now, saying, get the fuck out of it, get the fuck out of this situation, or tell him the truth, or tell him how you really feel, or do something, because this isn't what you need. It's got to change.
But she can't. That's the whole point. That's what I'm saying. She's surrounded by people. It's kind of like the Twilight movie where all the people have faces of pigs, and this gorgeous woman thinks she's ugly, and she's going to plastic surgery to make herself look like a pig. This was a famous Twilight Zone movie.
I said it on the last live, didn't I? This polyamory situation is Aubrey Marcus trying to dress up a pig with lipstick and saying, look, this is a beautiful divine relationship, and it isn't. It just isn't what they're trying to say that it is. And they would be. You still there?
No, one person said it's giving cult. It's giving cult. That's a very thank you.
I said so. I would call it a new cult, because it's trying to morph, distort this divine awakening that we are collectively going on around the world into a different new age cult. Go to confession in the church. Don't speak openly with your partner. Don't confide and all that. It's bizarre, because I'm noticing they're trying to switch it. They're trying to replace it with this new one where you still trust a spiritual guru, a third party. But all divine connection begins within, right?
Yeah,
All the
exactly.
connection that you have to God is within. It's the love, it's the joy, it's the
Mhm.
discernment, it's having that inner reflection time to know your true intentions, your true feelings. And if you do that, then the authenticity, your truth about how you feel, about what
Mhm.
you intend to your intentions for your relationship need to come from the heart. And if they don't, you will suffer because your heart won't be honored.
Right. Right.
I mean,
No.
I've heard of some. I've heard of some. I want to bring this up. I've heard of some people say, "Ignore your feelings because they'll lead you in the wrong direction." And fine, you can ignore your feelings if you know that that is temporary and not in, and they're just a temporary reaction to a situation. Your true intentions are thus somewhere else. But when you completely ignore them consistently, that is when you're avoiding yourself. You're avoiding the discernment of your true connection with God, right? Your inner reflection is that spirit connection with God. I'm sorry, I'm getting esoteric here, but it's simple. It's just, do you feel right about this situation? Does your feelings and your intentions align? If not, do you go and spend some time to see why?
Yeah.
That's the challenge. And she's not being given, in my view. What
Well,
did I wrote some note about this. Do you want to say something while I find the note?
well, I mean, basically, it's the money. Because, and I keep repeating myself, and I'm going to repeat it again. If he worked at Walmart or at a
Yeah.
gas station as a mechanic, she would not be going for this shit at all. And you know it, and I know it. Let's be honest. And there would be no entourage cultish mechanism keeping her, locked and loaded in that position. As for you saying she lost her glow, let's not smooth over that one. Because you know what? Come to think of it, I saw her videos when she was first in union with him, and
Yep.
she looked like she was 25 years old.
Absolutely. I
She did
saw
not
that.
look like she
I
was
mean,
45.
it might have been AI tweaks, but I don't believe it because
No, I don't think so.
I
No,
saw
I
some
don't
of the
think so.
other interviews they did when they were early on, and she did look
25.
very
I'm sorry. She looked
yeah,
very young. She looked very young.
yeah,
And why am I saying she looked very young? I don't want you guys to get twisted. She looked very young. Her eyes were shining. My twin used to say he loved it when my eyes were shining because it showed that I was in my full power. His eyes always was
yes,
shining. And so her eyes don't, I was in my full power. His eyes always was
yes,
shining. And so her eyes don't shine anymore. As a matter of fact, Aubrey's eyes are flat. Her eyes are flat. Alana's eyes are like, I don't even know if there's anyone home. And sometimes
They're,
purity.
I think they've both put themselves through quite a lot of trauma. Clearly,
Exactly.
his desires are not treating him well either. This is not all just about Ilana, but he is accountable for it.
Yeah.
So I found my quote. So Dr. Mark Daphne, his credentials are not what's in question. It's his credibility. And as an emotionally sensitive, spiritual, impartial guide for the group, he's not being impartial, is he?
No.
He's supposed to be ideally the emotionally sensitive, spiritual, impartial guide. That means he's not favoritist, and
Exactly.
you need to be able to give people guidance separately. And so we don't know what happens behind closed doors, but to see the gaslighting on that video where a clip was dubbed with laughter to mask her tears, it really shocked me. I couldn't believe that I'd seen that, and that was from 8 months ago.
Yeah. And because they were in it. And one of the outrages, again, to repeat myself, but to make sure for whoever is going to watch this, is that they
Yeah,
were selling divine union classes, courses on monogamous religion, situations while they were going through this threesome. He is fighting an addiction. At one point, there will be no satiated. Well, I mean, lust is an abyss. This is what people don't understand. Like, he's not going in going, how do I holster my dick? Like, how do I fucking get it together where she's enough for me? She's enough. And what he is the archetype of the masculine where no woman is enough because he's a stallion and I'm an eros and I do and I need this. You know how many I've seen women take on fucking, well, we got Bonnie Blue. An example of a woman who
We will talk about her, but let's just keep on this for a moment more,
no,
because
but that's the archetype. Women have to understand, and in particular, men need to understand. You've got the Bonnie Blues, and you got women who can have sex 3 times a day. So and it's well known in women in their 40s. So my point to you is he's full of shit on multiple scales. Because if he said to her, "Let's have sex in the car, let's have sex in the gym, we might get caught in the shower," she'd be up for that. You can tell. And he is deciding that he wants. This is one thing that he said, and I'm quoting from the top of his head. He said, "When I go to have sex with Alana, okay, Alana's the young one, the one that's 29.
yeah,
When I have sex with Alana, I get refreshed, I get recharged, I get all this nectar, I get all this benefit, and I'm able to now come back better than ever to my wife Valana." So what does that say to you? What did I just say?
Okay.
He's a psychic vampire.
Well, it sounds like he's siphoning her energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in that way, he's a succubus, isn't he?
Exactly.
He's taking her energy, you know.
Exactly. He's taking her youth, he's taking her energy, and he's going back and bringing all that goodness, all that B12 shot of the spirit back to Valana, and Valana's being drained, and he's going back and forth and then adding other partners. Let's be honest. Fidelity, my ass. Okay, there's no fidelity.
So look, I'm going to mention what lust is and what the opposite of lust is, which is chastity, okay? So lust is intense longing or desire, particularly for sexual pleasure, ultimately for the gratification of one's desire. Chastity is the purity in thought and action, often associated with sexual restraint, but ultimately it is the aligned action of the heart and mind with the purest intention for the good of all. Now, it may be very well he believes that, but from your statement about him feeling fully recharged, I mean, maybe she does too, but even so, it's a relationship of convenience, not of devotion.
Well, you made a comment the last time we did this. You talked about Mark Gaffney saying he wanted no one to sleep in their bed alone, and yet Alana stated, go ahead and say do you remember that?
I don't remember. No, sorry.
Okay. Alana stated, I sleep in the bed alone. Like I'm a cuddle bug. He calls them sugar gliders, meaning very affectionate or whatever. And so basically Mark Gaffney, in getting these people in this threesome, apparently I was wrong, by the way, in thinking that they were in bed together, though I did get that insinuation from Alana. But apparently Alana has her own bedroom, and he goes and visits her, and then she has to be alone. Sometimes she goes to bed and sleeps alone. So there goes Mark Gaffney saying, I want no one in the world to be alone in their bed. I want everyone to be with a lover. It's and because there's so many lonely people. There's lonely people, Mark Gaffney, because people like you are fucking confusing the shit out of them, and no one trusts each other. Meanwhile, there's a gender war, and the gender war is going to continue when you have women being triggered as fuck saying, oh, I'm part of a harem now. Okay, I'll be one of 3 bitches. Okay, gotcha. And then you've got the Andrew Tates in the world saying, all women are this, all women are that. I watched him being interviewed with a Bonnie Blue, and it was a shit show, and it was watching 2 archetypes of the most deviant nature, and these archetypes are important. Thank God for
so let's talk about archetypes, because I think this is going to be a very valuable topic, right? So what archetypes do is they take a kind of pre-organized belief system around a specific authority structure and give you an identity that fits within that structure, right? So you could say a solicitor is an archetype. You could say a king is an archetype. You could say a lover or a wizard or a warrior. What sort of archetype? Because I believe there are new archetypes coming, right? Divine masculine, divine feminine. That's a new archetype.
Oh, you're asking me
So
what I
was there one specifically you were bringing
Well, I
into
mean,
the conversation?
when I look at archetype, I don't put a word because there's too many words to it. There's no warrior, poet, magician. I think it's fine. That was a great way to put it. It's kind of old now because what we have now is convoluted archetypes. So Aubrey Marcus is the archetype of the new age. He knows the lingo of the new age community. He knows how to fucking manipulate people with words. He has the sacred tears, crocodile tears, and he smells of sandalwood, and he's got a mala or two or three on his wrists. And what he says is divine consciousness, and I'm aware, and I'm on a healing journey. Then you've got Andrew Tate saying, fuck you, fuck all of you. I've got 10 bitches on the payroll and fucking 13 kids. I am a man. So he's a patriarchal, he's a toxic patriarch. He rules with an iron fist in the household, and he is playing out Old Testament shit. I'm not joking when I say that. Talmud shit. He's playing Talmud.
Absolutely. Well, I can't say about that, but because I don't know that to be true. But let me say that I agree with everything up until the Talmud, because I don't know about that. But if you believe that to be true, that's shocking.
He's playing that role of the matriarch, and then you've got Bonnie Blue, who is what I call the sacred slut. And why? Because in her mind, she is doing God's work. I'm not joking, actually. That was what I saw in the interview. I'm not joking.
And I watched a little bit of the interview, and he said that she is the pinnacle of the feminist movement, because it's like total empowerment of free will in the feminine without any basically accountability, I guess. But if you look at it, the mirror of that is a man that can act without remorse, without regret, to do his own free will. In a way, they're the two opposites in a way, aren't they?
Well, they're the opposite of the same coin, like Janice.
Yeah, I agree. What I mean is, she's kind of the worst version of that feminine, and he's the worst version of that masculine. Absolutely. Whatever you want to label them as. Yeah.
You need to look up that interview, you guys. You need to watch it to understand what I'm talking about. Why is it important? Because once you understand these archetypes of incredible, it's almost a tragic. There's a term I'm trying to find. It's almost like the tragic mask. It's almost like Greek, like a Greek plague, like Oedipus Rex, that kind of shit, like Antigone. Like, what the fuck is going on? And yet,
so you're talking about the fact that they are wearing a performative mask and not healing. They're stuck in an archetypal coping strategy in a way.
I think that's really brilliant, because it throws me back to Aubrey Marcus he's on a perpetual 3D wheel of healing, and he won't heal his fucking lust. He's a sexual addict, period. Let's just call it for what it is. The Academy.
Yeah, so the archetype of Bonnie Blue being the ultimate pinnacle of feminism, where she gets to do whatever she wants without accountability. And then you've got the opposite side. I forget his name. What's his name? It's so silly that I forgot his name. What's his name?
No, Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate.
Andrew Tate. And there he is, basically saying, like, I'm never going to let my daughter even vote. She won't vote, and she won't leave my house until she is married with a man I know I can trust.
Right.
That's ancient. No, I honour it. I honour him for being a safe masculine in that way. Yeah. But again, he's overdoing it, isn't he? He's so in a kind of paranoid control, because he is the personification of all the wrong things that could happen to his daughters. Do you see that?
Well, I mean, it's obvious. He's got he's in a way psychologically and spiritually veiling his daughters. He's put them in veiling them from being smart, from being educated, and from being independent. And he's assuming that all women are sluts. He actually says that. He says that all women are sluts. And
I can't tell you what his true intentions are, but what is clear is that he believes, that the women can't be trusted, and that they have no accountability. And that's his belief. You can see that. He does make that clear.
Well, I mean, he doesn't like women because he's never been in front of a woman that wasn't there somehow posing. I've seen him interview on these what was it? Not interview, where he was across these he's been, he's sat across different women on I guess it's a speed date type of thing. It was a show. I forgot what it was. I don't even know what it was for. But there were certain women that thought they were badasses and they could take him down. You don't argue with a narcissist. You don't you get off that fucking you don't try to convince a narcissist of your worth. That's insane shit. You don't do that.
Yeah.
And women do it all the time. Women do it
I
all the
agree
time.
with you. You cannot win an argument if somebody is a narcissist. Your best bet is to see those red flags, make apologies, and distance yourself from that toxicity. You really got to learn that lesson, because it can hurt just to stay in communication with someone like that. So let's continue the conversation about the archetype that Aubrey Marcus is basically demonstrating, and how he's trying to shape that, isn't he? He's trying to, I don't know if it's intentional, but it certainly seems Mark Gaffney has got his oar in the, what can I say? He's kind of stirring the pot, isn't he? Trying to make a mixture of what this new spiritual male archetype is, the ascended master, the guru of I mean, there was a conversation about how men and women are really looking for leaders who they can feel trust with and belong to in the community. And that is what he has tried to offer, hasn't he? He's tried to be the one that people can look up to. But he's done some, in my view, irreparable damage. It's unfortunate, because he could really have made such a loving family with Ilana, and I don't know if he will, but
right.
So his
what at this point now, Valana is nowhere to be seen, and she's not making any public statements at all. And the fact that he went to his
that's a red flag, isn't it? If you ask me, that's a red flag.
Well, let me put it this way. Why are we going to your ex-fiance who's on the payroll in some capacity? She's always interviewing you. You're always having podcasts with her. And he opens up with, "This is my very best friend in the whole world." So not only is Valana not enough as a sexual partner, clearly, but also she's not even his best friend. She's not even his best friend. His best friend is Caitlin, an ex-fiance who is in a monogamous relationship. I mean, I'm sorry. What more do you want? What more do you want, Valana? Wake up, Valana. You're surrounded by little people who just want their paycheck to be deposited. They really don't give a fuck about you. You're just there, and there'll be another one and another one. You got the marriage ring because he really, really wanted you. You were hard to get because you were in your monogamous mindset. That was who you are. And now you're second guessing your rage, your passions, and you're trying to belittle your passions. You're like a wild horse that he wanted to catch and tame because he's the stallion. And so, you're his favorite mare out there in the world. You're his favorite mare, but he's got like 6 or 7 other mares, and anything comes in. It's almost so animalistic. It has nothing to do with New Age. This is why we're really talking about this. It's about saying to people the concept and the fracture of the New Age community with these hedonistic mindsets who use word salad, gorgeous words. Don't get me wrong, very evocative, very well done. Bravo with your word stringing, coping skills, fantastic. But you're full of shit, and you're making young people fucking second guess. And they could actually, as it is when you go through an awakening, self-harm is also part of the journey. Fighting it, trying to survive yourself, and to add root chakra trauma because you think you want to get over your jealousy. Dude, jealousy was put in place for your very fucking survival. Now, to what level?
Absolutely.
You have to heal the level of jealousy.
If you want to gaslight your emotions and the signals that you get from your body, you've got to, at some point, you've got to come to the awareness. Hold on a minute. What have I been doing all this time? Because my body's giving me signals that this hurts, that this isn't safe, that I shouldn't continue in this dynamic.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, and also Red Mama says, I haven't seen women who are well off have multiple lovers. If so, they haven't spoken out. Because women have to take it quietly. Because if you watch the movie Dangerous Liaison, she says in that scene, Glenn Close says in that scene, if I want a lover, I'll take him. I'll have him. And I will make sure that he can never speak of it. Yeah, because she blackmails them. She gets something on them so they can speak. Women, and this is something I knew from when I was living in the Bahamas, for example, is I saw a lot of, and in the south of France and Canada, lots of wealthy women, lots, in their 40s, because that's the age of the pinnacle of sex, and taking lovers, maybe not two in one day, though I've heard that too. But they would have their lovers. They would have their pool boy, their young, their young stallion, their young stud, and take him for the fucking weekend or for the whole 2 weeks they were in town. Trust me, they don't talk about it because they're not fucking pigs. They don't go out talking about the fucking multiple sex. But I know women who've had hundreds of lovers. And if they drop it in my lap it's because they know they can tell me, because I'm not going to tell them you're an asshole. Why would you do that? I usually, when women tell me, and this is something Mark Gaffney doesn't talk about because of his own belief system that are very, in my opinion, deviant. Watch the movie Kinsey with Liam Neeson, Kinsey, to understand how corrupted root chakra affects generations, for example. But my point to you is that I wouldn't be surprised if Aubrey Marcus didn't have molestation issues that he's never actually dealt with. Okay? Because most people deal with it with weight gain, addiction of food, drugs, alcohol, and of course, let's not forget sex.
Overactive root chakra. Yeah, overactive root chakra. Yeah, very true.
And so, what kind of fucking guy is he that he's not telling Aubrey, dude, did something happen to you when you were born?
I believe the reason it occurs is because now you have control and free will over that which was abused before. You now seek soothing through that which was abused. It becomes it
could have been his mother. Let's not.
We don't know, and I'm not going to project. If there was something like that happening in anybody, then maybe that would be a potential coping strategy. I'm not saying it would be for everyone, because you can't know that for sure.
We're using him as a prototype. So let me go more. Most of the men I've worked with who've had issues in the root chakra, it was family. It was somebody in the family. The reason why I said mother is because some boys have been, with their mother, unfortunately, that is a reality. Let's go to jealousy. Jealousy, there's toxic jealousy, which is, don't go out wearing this, who are you with, who you were talking to, why are you talking to your friends, let me look at your phone, all that shit is insane, deviant jealousy, like, for example, but one of the things me and my twin have, and my son, is that we all share our passcodes in our phone. There's nothing we have to fucking hide. We all share our locations with each other for fucking safety and common sense. And if I wanted to get into my son's phone, I actually fucking forgot the password, to be honest. But my password and my twins was the same for the entire 10 years we were together. It was the same. That was our passcode to our phone. He could go into my phone. I could go into his. There was nothing to hide. On that level. But what I'm saying to you is jealousy. Like, if he looked at another woman in a certain way, or he flirted or whatever, I'd fucking be jealous. And it was me saying, this is not to put, well, no, fuck it. I'm just gonna, this is mine. He belongs to me. I don't share my toys. And he would be the same with me, with other men. That was, some of you might find that's just toxic. I don't give a fuck. This is how we rolled. And he did not want me to, but have a body language that was very intimate in his mind with certain men. I can understand it, just like I didn't want it with him. So the jealousy, there's levels of jealousy, right? But the jealousy doesn't get toxic unless the person's fucked up, let's be honest, they have to work on it, or they mistrust the man. Every woman I've ever talked to who Some of them were soft. You would have never thought in a million fucking years they would do this. Some of these women, all of them actually, when they thought a man was doing something, they would all turn to the FBI and the CIA. You know why? I'll tell you why. Because some women are going to pack their shit, and they want to make sure that if I accuse you, I want to fucking know I'm not Delulu. You really did fuck on me. And I want to pack my shit. I want proof so I can leave. I can just go because I'm done with you and your bullshit. So, and some men do that too, but I've seen some men who basically didn't understand that that is how all women roll. If they're about to leave a man, they will go to the very ends of the earth to get the truth and the proof of the truth to then pack their shit.
Of what?
The only one who knows that they're
Oh,
not
right,
crazy.
okay. Of the betrayal, you mean?
Yeah. So jealousy is important. Jealousy is because it has been manipulated. Women, and I have to say this as a reader, as a coach, is women have been gaslit by men. Oh, you're crazy. Oh, you're crazy. And then like a year later, they end up marrying the coworker. You know, I mean, I've heard that story again and again and again. Oh, she's just my coworker. You're just jealous. You're just crazy. This is really harmful to women. And this is something that I feel men also have to get. Some men have gone through this. And they get harmed by women. So suddenly, because there are a lot of women out there who want a lot of attention and a lot of self-empowerment through the gaze of a man. So I get it. It's a two-way street. But for the most part, it seems to be out of balance with mostly women going through that, in my humble opinion. And you might disagree. But what are your thoughts on that, on jealousy? What are your thoughts on healthy jealousy and toxic jealousy?
Okay, so good question. Thank you for asking me a question. The real facts are when you trust yourself and you do the inner reflection, which is how you know. It's like anything. When you go through life, you do something, you fail. You do something, you succeed. Inner reflection and trusting yourself is the same. And what I'm trying to say is that if you overreact from the slightest little thing that you get jealous by, and it has a very negative consequence in your relationship, you're not going to trust yourself. If you're around people that constantly gaslight you and aren't being honest with what they're doing, then again, you're going to lack trust, which is why you need to not get into relationships and commit to them until you know that they're trustworthy. You have to take your time to get to know someone. Ideally, you want to have all that trust built up in your childhood because you have trustworthy adults who can be models for you, who can teach you. This is how you build discernment in your emotions. You know, maybe it's not jealousy in the romantic sense. It could be jealousy over your brother or your sister getting an ice cream when you didn't. The awareness of how you deal with that jealousy in that situation gives you a discernment you couldn't actually get, you know, if you don't have that safe experience in the modeling of your upbringing. But you can get it if you take your time getting to know somebody. Don't get intimately, physically too quickly. You know, fine, hold hands. I would say even delay kissing for a while, because what you're trying to do is develop an awareness, a discernment, without getting too absorbed with your emotions and that physical aspect, which is very easy to do, even just with kissing, right? So when you ask me, like, how would I discern with jealousy? I mean, it has to come with reflecting inwards to begin with, of what you notice, and then you can kind of figure out, well, I've got to say something. You know, even if you don't do it with the full force, you can just say, you know, that made me feel a bit jealous. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that. I'm going to have to think about that. And that at least gives your partner an awareness that you are in connection with your senses, and that you're putting them on notice that behavior is questionable, and I'm not sure how to react about that yet. Right. And at some point, you're going to come back to them. You're going to have that question with them, aren't you? And it's going to, I mean, all relationships require self-reflection and then that deep communication where you get to the bottom of things, right? Yeah, it's hard with go on, please.
No, I just got download.
Go on, please tell me your download.
Well, the download I just got was that Villana with this situation didn't like her jealousy has never been honored. It's never been sat with like a little girl.
I
It
don't know
really
that, but yeah, it does. It's not publicly obvious that that there's any sort of empathy for her now not being the center of attention, now not being the honored divine feminine in the relationship. You know, maybe she still has the matriarchal status, the divine feminine in the relationship. I mean, he's trying to honor her by saying, you know, he recharges himself, but I've not seen in her facial reflections that she's getting that.
Yeah, but
you know,
what I was trying to say is that her problem, that is also part of why she's still staying, besides the money, in my opinion, is that no man has ever wanted to work on so much word salad than he has. Most of the men did whatever they wanted to do and left her bereft. And figure it out, bitch, if you think, you know, like, this is how I am, this is how I roll. And now, so she's with Aubrey Marcus, who's sitting there having massive, long discussions for months and months, and she's never had a man pour his word salad on her. But the problem, what she doesn't realize, is that narcissists love doing this shit, and they will move. And I'm not a clinician, so it's not an official diagnosis of narcissism, obviously. But some of the things I've studied, you know, through Dr. Sam Vakin, and Richard Brannon and Narcon, is that they will make you feel as if you're listening, you're being heard. But the thing is, the agenda is still their agenda. You see what I'm saying?
So I want to honor the emotions that I'm feeling right now, because if I don't, really, I'm gaslighting myself. Okay. So what I'm feeling is a deep sense of betrayal. I'm feeling a real lack of safety. And this is not coming from me. It's coming from this situation. And it's reflecting that I don't trust Aubrey Marcus and what he is saying about relationships. I wouldn't ever trust what he's saying, because there's so much to and fro. It's bait and switch. It's safe 1 minute, chaos the next. And he's, like you've said, you wouldn't trust him an inch. Yeah, you said you wouldn't trust him an inch because of of who he's associated with, namely Dr. Mark Gaffney. I'm really feeling like the wounds that we all need to heal are just being rewounded by watching content like that. Because you're really, I mean, okay, look, maybe there's a benefit in watching it for self-reflection over the wounds that are still triggering emotion in you, that are still making you feel like, I've got to heal my wounds. I've got to go back in my memory to the last relationship where I got hurt so badly, and really learn to let go of that anger, that pain, that suffering, so that the forgiveness is, a lot of people probably know this, but just in case for those that don't, forgiveness is not about loving them again.
Yeah.
It's about not having trauma feelings anymore. It's about letting go. It's about saying there is no power from that relationship that stops me from loving anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you dissolve that wound, sorry, did you want to say something?
No, I just wanted to say you're right, but I want to go back to the beginning of your sentence when you said that this is very re-traumatizing to a lot of people watching this go down. But I think we're being asked by the universe. I'm almost great. I'm absolutely grateful for them being the sacrificial lambs to our awakening, because many of us have gone through these levels of betrayal in some capacity or others. We've questioned ourselves. We've actually looked at our sexuality and said, could I do this? Could I do that? Could I change myself? You've got Twin Flame Universe telling people to literally change their gender, okay, to be with their twin flame. So there's all kinds of alarming things from changing your sexual like desires. Like, oh, well, your twin flame isn't a masculine. In other words, but that woman is your twin flame. So because it needs to be a masculine. This is their own words. I'm paraphrasing the quote. And so now you need to go through a gender reassignment, because that's your twin flame. So there's all kinds of fuckery going on, literally controlling sexuality, gender.
So if you want to talk about it from the twin flame perspective, both the feminine and the masculine are not balanced in these people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if they were, she would be saying, "You are not understanding that you've betrayed me." We should be standing up for herself. She'd be being heard. And what's happening, is what I'm noticing, is Mark Daphne is trying to do the validating of her emotions to make sure that she feels felt, but in a reflection that always honors Aubrey Marcus. And that's a problem, because it's a gaslighting type of validation. And you can see it. You can see very clearly that he's trying to align always with the energy of approval with Aubrey Marcus. And
Who's writing the checks? Who's writing the checks?
And as I continue after the continuing on my notes, I've got, like, he seems to enable the situation without any acknowledgement. Like, he's publicly displaying, it's like a performance. It's not being genuinely loving intentionally and honoring her feelings. It's more like, aren't so many of us putting some sort of performative mask on to get validated, to get accepted? And he's doing the same thing because it's a podcast,
Right. I mean, in the podcast, Aubrey Marcus with Caitlin talks about how he felt, and she brought it up, a witch hunt. Now, a witch hunt? Did you watch that or no? You didn't watch that?
I did watch it. No, I did watch it. Yeah, They said it's a witch hunt, and
how did you feel?
Well, I read the comment. I read the comments, and what I felt was that was an overreach. What was going on? What was going on in most of the people's comments was that it was like, are you for real? Like, hold on a minute. This is your partner, your ex-partner, who you've paid a huge amount of money, and she's still your best friend. Not surprisingly, she's going to say she's your best friend. You've just paid money to her to, stay silent. Don't talk about all the shenanigans we got up to. That could be no good for me. I think that's what's going on, and she's there giving him sympathy. I'm not saying they don't genuinely care for one another. I'm sure that they do. It is absolutely possible with lots of money to heal wounds, right? You can incentivize someone to forgive you much quicker if you're giving them all the resources that they would otherwise lose without, by not being with you. That heals wounds. It does. I mean, I'm not saying that she does not hurt by not being with him. Maybe she's the one that wanted to leave, because it wasn't clear who broke that relationship up. I think it was him, wasn't it?
No, it was
he said he had. I remember now. He said that he did this frog licking trip. He did this frog licking trip, and he envisioned that he was going to be in a relationship having babies with two women. Didn't he say that?
No, he didn't say.
I think that's what he said.
No, I saw him saying that
he had visions of the future, and it wasn't with her. That's what he said.
Exactly.
And then 4 months later, they broke up. That was the bit I remembered.
Exactly. And they were extremely, perfectly, incandescently happy. And he threw the rock in the pond, and she was mad as fuck. She didn't talk to him for years. But my point to you is, when I saw the podcast with Caitlin, and they're looking at each other across the table, it's about before they start talking, and I picked up the energy. Karma's a bitch, isn't it? Even though it was almost like she was trying to swallow karma as a bitch. Here you are, you totally fucked up, but here I am. I love you as my brother. Fuck it, I'm gonna be here for you. I mean, I think she's genuine. Don't get me wrong, but it was weird, because I could see the look in her eyes, like she couldn't. I saw the micro expression of, you fucked up again with another one who you wanted above all else, and here you are again. Did
you notice that too? Did you notice that too? Yeah, she's. Yeah. I can't pinpoint the exact point, but I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was obvious. And it was weird that he's so into himself that while they were doing the edits, He didn't see that. But for you to see it and me to see it, then a lot of people saw it. Because at the end of the day, people were like, dude, one person said, well, I don't know what to do with all this energy. Dude, I don't know. You have $100 million, take $2 million, go to LA, downtown LA, and look at all the homeless and go, where can we buy land to do tiny homes for these for these homeless vets, for these homeless women with children in tents that have holes in them and they're patching it up while it rains. Listen, there's so much shit to be done. Like, it's insane. What I'm going to give, if you don't mind, I'm going to finish this thought, is the barons, the Lord barons, when this country was being built during the Industrial Revolution. You know what I liked about them? They were motherfuckers, don't get me wrong. But you know what they didn't understand? They were building fucking libraries. They were fucking building soup kitchens. They were building schools, and they were bringing in art from Europe and creating museums open to the public. At least they fucking knew what to do with some of their money. They thought it was a responsibility to at least give the plebs, the peasants, us, working class, something to where we could go to the museum and see a $20 million painting and so on and so forth. They understood these new millionaires don't do shit but fuck and do fucking ayahuasca. It's insane to me. I just don't, oh, I don't know what to do. It's like, dude, then go in the streets and figure it out. Drive in the worst neighborhoods and go, how can I help? I've got $100 million plus. How can I make let me roll up my sleeves and get to it. Let me get my jackhammer, my hammer, what do you guys think? I mean, what do you think, Mark, on this?
Just ask me the question again. Sorry, I'm reading these comments on this video.
Well, I mean, Beth says Bezos and his $50 million wedding. Yeah, 50 million. 50 million. Do you know what 50 million could do to downtown LA?
It's just you can do pretty good anywhere, right? With that amount of money, can't you?
I mean, you could do a lot. There's a lot to be done. There are so many. You could. I told my son what I would do, and I can't even say it on this live, but I'll tell you afterwards what I would do if I had that kind of money. And I can't even say it on this live because it's not exactly politically correct, but and I don't mean anything like revolution. I mean, helping people that are being prevented from being helped. I think we know what I'm talking about. Okay.
So look, what we've established here is that in order to regain trust, he's really got to own up to the chaos that has ensued from his actions. And not least of all, probably the most important point is to honour the hurt feelings of Aylana, A-Y-L-N-A, his wife, publicly. He's got to do it with her. And I would think he needs to do some interviews with critics. Get some of the people with the worst shit that's been said and have it out with them. You know, at least you can get some real honest truth about
I think
what's going on. That level of
it.
accountability is what's going to rebuild trust. I don't see how else he's going to do it. I mean, I would do that to rebuild trust, because you don't do it by hiding away, by muting the comments on the video that everyone knows. He's muted the comments.
Right. Well, I think he would be in good hands and I'm not saying that to kiss your ass, but I think he'd be great if he took you on and you would break it down. Because I think that I'm too harsh. I'd say you're full of shit, man. But with you, I think he would get an even playing field with somebody who
I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up crying together. But, like, the thing is, it really is about, look, I read this comment because this is the key here, right? Caitlin empathically extended a hand to place on his knee. That's his original fiance.
Right.
She placed a knee to comfort him. Yet no one comforted Velana as she bawled her eyes out.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point, right? Where was the empathy when she was crying, when she was expressing her pain? I know that in that scenario, in a podcast scenario, everyone's sort of facing each other, so the dynamics don't really work. But the way that there's just Caitlin opposite Aubrey, that was a very intimate podcast, that last one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It wasn't like, and there was 4 people on the previous one. Well, because you had Dr. Mark Gaffney there, didn't you?
Right. No, I mean, so the two women were in the middle, and the two men were at the opposite end of the
That's
table.
right.
Not a round table.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened again with the last interview you brought up to me that happened 8 months ago in April. 8 months ago in April, where again she's being ganged up by two people who have the same agenda. Mark Garfney and Aubrey Marcus want her to capitulate to realizing that she's the problem and she needs to heal her shit. This is why these masculines in the new age community, and I mean, really, it does trigger me because I've seen the articles and I've read and I've talked to women who went into polyamorous relationship, always a younger woman. Of course, it could be a woman that was like in her 60s. Yeah, go get yourself an older chick. And I'm in my 40s. Get yourself an older woman. No, that never happens. It's always a 20-year-old who is completely innocent and feels so excited that, oh my God, a grown man twice my age fucking sees my value. I'm so excited. I feel valuable now. Okay, that dynamic.
I want to read this comment because this is a good one. Energy never lies. It's a massive teaching of discernment for everyone. The collective response wasn't an attack, true. It was calling it out, not in judgment, but as observers and listeners. If everyone was thrilled about the arrangement, it would have come through in the first podcast loud and clear. It just simply wasn't believable. And with all the spiritual wackadoo, we saw it and we called it. It made me love humanity even more because the wool can't be pulled over our eyes. And it wasn't done in hate. We're not trying to strip the man of his position in the spiritual world. We're not at all. I'd much prefer that he owns up to all of the pain that has ultimately been projected because of this, lust infused, inspired action, right? It wasn't. Please,
it's fractured, Mark. It's fractured. What he's done, and many.
Of course, it's fractured. Of course, it's fractured. It's destroyed the trust, hasn't it? And everyone reacted that way because they felt the betrayal that Alana was not voicing.
Exactly. And my point in the New Age community is I've been hearing it for the last 20 years. But when I saw, it was really getting hot and heavy in the last 10, and then because like I told you, I was listening to a lot of polyamorous couples. I was trying to figure it out myself. I was trying to second guess myself, in terms of what did I want in a relationship? Was I truly monogamous? I was asking myself those questions because you should ask yourself, am I who I am? Am I bisexual? Am I gay? Am I straight? What am I? You know what I mean? And what is my point of view? Is it from a place of fear or a place of power? And what I'm finding is that she is the archetype of the feminine, beautiful, in her own right, that could pretty much, I'm sure there's a lot of men who would stand in line going, I'm a millionaire, but I'm not as rich as Mark, but I'm here for you. And so but in her mind, this is all she knows. And it's her, and she's talked about her childhood trauma. It does come from childhood trauma. The problem is, and we're lucky to see, I'm going to mute you for a minute because I'm hearing, the problem is that the spiritual community and the New Age movement leaves a bad taste in people's mouths because they will get wise counsel and then suddenly somebody will go off field, and it's typically sexual. Osho was like that. He was a cult leader. He had everyone free fucking constantly. You could pick whoever you wanted at the end of the day. I'm not joking when I say that, but you weren't allowed to own property. You weren't allowed to, if you were in his compound, you were not allowed to own a fucking thing. You gave it to him. That's why he had 36 Rolls Royces. That's why when people like quote Osho, I get really irritated by that shit because he was a cult leader, but it was all about sex, constantly sex. So it's like we need to like fucking understand that in true ancient wisdom, in true ancient rites, sex is a co-creation with the universe. Sex is absolutely beautiful. And yes, sex is something you do with another human being, not fucking seven. And why is this important? Because you get to work your shit out. Aubrey's not asking, why do I want to fuck all these women? Exactly, baby. Why do you? What's going on? Am I not enough? No, you are enough. I love you. I don't want to lose you. I'll do anything. But I have to have these other women. Why, baby? I don't know. Well, let's go explore them. Why? That's what they're not doing. That's what a good counselor and spiritual coach would say. And Esther Perel would say the same. Esther Perel, who wrote Mating in Captivity, talks about that. She talks about sometimes how cheating can actually bring more truth and passion into a marriage, or it destroys it. It's the death bell. It's the final bell ringing saying, yeah, the marriage is over. And she talks about that with eloquence, but
Yeah.
she's certainly not talking about fucking threesomes, foursomes, and swapping. You know what I mean? That's not really where she's going, at least from what I've seen. What are your thoughts on that?
We know from what he's said that no relationship that brings polyamory into it lasts. He used those exact words in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to have the most rewarding and the most spiritually enlightening lessons in love, do it with one person.
I agree.
Opening your heart to one person is the most brave, vulnerable, enlightening thing you can do. But you do have to have two consensual partners. You know, if you don't both want to go deep with one another, then the relationship won't last. And that's fine, because that's a lesson. You move on and you find your real divine partner who wants to go that deep with you. Another comment here, it says, the issue is not that you are polyamorous, Aubrey, but these poly relationships have to be consensual. I know people who are poly and no one is crying talking about it, but you've forced it on your wife and she's still hurting. This is what the community saw. It was heartbreaking for the community to see her pain. Why isn't her pain heartbreaking for you if you love her so much? What is really going on here is it didn't seem, well, we know it wasn't her intention. Her intention was that she wanted the devotion and love and attention in a committed relationship, one man, one woman. That was her intention. Now, either they were lying about it, and they weren't telling the truth, or he's betrayed her trust.
Well, I mean, I think he's betrayed her trust because he was. You talk about Diary of a CEO, where he's talking about how that's not. He wants to be monogamous. Let me just. I'm going to clear the field here. Let me just say this: had she known this was his nature, had she known he was never going to be monogamous for a long time, he could do it for probably a year, but not farther. Had she known that, she would have never stepped into that relationship, and they would have been friends, because he talked about it in detail how they were friends, platonic friends, for a long time, like a year or so. And then finally he went all in and told her what she wanted to hear, and he wanted to hear, to make it feel like he was full of integrity when he was full of shit. And he is not a man who knows himself. I'm sorry. Because he would have said to her, because they're out there. There are men out there. I have a twin flame client who, she's monogamous. He's polyamorous. I said, will he ever become? She goes, no. I go, then it's never going to work. Can you be polyamorous? Oh, she goes, oh, hell no. I go, well, then not in this incarnation. It's really that simple. And had she been given the truth, the fucking raw truth, I can tell you she would have never laid down with him and connected with him sexually to connect her heart chakra to him. She would have never done it. And that's why it's a criminal. What he's done to her is criminal. What are your thoughts?
I think you may be onto something here, right? There's a video here with somebody saying that they channeled spirit, and what spirit revealed was that Aubrey Marcus is a cult leader. Mm-hmm. You know, and ultimately what he's planning is to build a massive following that goes along with polyamory. I mean, I don't know. So like I'm not saying that's true, but clearly there's a kind of psyop thing going on here. If all of this is to channel a big change in the way that we live as a humanity, that's very toxic, isn't it? I don't agree with that.
Well, let me ask you this. Why is it toxic for us to have a movement in the new age that is selling very well the concept that ascension is connected to polyamory and not going back to primitive cultures? Can you break it down in your own thoughts? Forget what people say about
Sorry,
polyamory.
let me just rephrase what you said so I get the question right. Why is it?
Why?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get it.
Okay, no, it's okay. So why is polyamory why is it dangerous for polyamory to be structured and sold to the new age community as the key to ascension? Why is that
Oh,
damage, and why is it?
well,
And the truth being that it
it's
is actually going
it's
back to
I mean, you use the word fracturing, and I'm just going to say, like, corruption. You're never going to. So look, the whole point of twin flame divine union is to first find that in yourself. And so if you honor the divine, masculine and feminine, then you are one and the same. You are sensitive to the desires of both. And that means that you want the divine connection with the heart and the mind and all the chakra energy centers. You want all of that love. You want all of that commitment, but it comes from you first. And that gives you discernment so that when you get into a relationship with a partner, you notice their wounds and you call them out lovingly. But darling, you seem to have a very overactive root chakra, and your heart is not aware of the pain that's going to cause you and others. So go and heal it, my dear. Are you with me? Are you with me? Like, for me, it's the fact that it's going to cause unnecessary chaos and pain because you're unhealed. Your overactive need to spread your seed is the problem, right? Exactly. I mean, it's fine if you decide, I'm sorry, I can't stay in divine unionship with you because either when I don't love you anymore, I've evolved, I've changed, we can't have children. There's reasons why relationships don't continue. Right. But that is very different than bringing a third in, than betraying. I mean, gaslighting somebody and betraying them is worse than just cheating on them, because what you're really doing is you're making them accept the betrayal and pretend it's okay. Oh dear, the pain. Right. Well, there's so much pain to have to deal with that.
But why is it dangerous? If he's a cult, if he's planning himself, let's say this person is psychically correct, okay, and what he's saying is correct, that he wants to do a cult to get the new age movement in the movement of polyamory. Why is this dangerous to actually sell that to people who aren't even fucking balanced in their root chakra? Why is this dangerous? Where we're actually moving all of the root chakra trauma from all of our incarnations, where we've been violated, where we've been impaled, where we've been tortured, where we've been essayed, and so on, right? Why is that important for polyamory not to be the first point of action when we can't even some people can't even give themselves an orgasm, much less get it from someone else? We're there.
I don't know. Like, I mean, like, the only analogy I can come up with is I'm not sure a bucket full of slugs mating with each other is the right way to ascend. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. I love that image. It's sticky.
It just doesn't. You know, think of two most elevated spiritual beings. Right. Think of what is, if you think of spirituality, celestial beings, let's look at the way in which the behavior of the sun, the moon, the earth, Mars, and all these planets, all the astrology, the way they move in this such perfect pattern. Right. Right? That's what divine union should feel like. A trust, a level of holding each other, of trusting each other, of being there, supporting, nurturing, giving equal energy. You know, all of this, like the word starseed, it's not a coincidence that the word starseed resonates as like the sun and the god and Ra and all of that, right? Mm-hmm. What that tells me, the energy that I get from that, the emotion that comes up in me from that, is that I see star seeds as a seed that is growing in awareness, in ability to one day be ascended, so much so that they understand unconditional love, so that they could be the sun that shines unconditional love on the whole solar system. That is a starseed. A starseed is one that ascends in love beyond the need for selfish love and goes into that unselfish, unconditional love. right? I don't know how is this landing at all?
Well, I'm thinking that it has a touch the way you're saying it. If I took it away and I spliced that like edited just that piece and then put polyamory, why we support it.
Yeah.
It's not it, but let's just break it down even further, because that's still, we are still aligned with another soul above all other souls. And the
Yeah.
minute you align to one soul above all other souls, you have to ask yourself, do I want a harem? Whether you're a woman or a man, don't think there aren't matriarchal societies where in other planets where these women are married to, these female sentient beings on other planets, starseeds, are married to or connected to, bonded to 2, 3, or 4 men. Don't think so. It happens. Amazons were real. They would have sex with men to impregnate them. But then,
Again, are we talking about ascension, or are we talking about like having power, having the security of guaranteeing your offspring? They're different things, right? See, to me, divine union is about learning to love unconditionally with another.
Yeah.
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 If you think that for a moment that spiritual ascension, in the way that Mark Aubrey's doing it, is that he's learning to give unconditional love to 2 instead of 1, well, that's fine. That's his belief, but he needs to be clear that that was his intention from the get-go, and it wasn't that.
Exactly.
And it could be if the women that he attracted knew that that was going to be the way it was, and they accepted that. In fairness, the unconditional love would be greater in the hearts of the women who had to share him than in the man who didn't have to share, because he got more attention. You know, all eyes are on the prize, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I heard exactly. I heard him say that Volana went out to the play. They were in Burning Man. She decided to watch the sun rise with her.
But Burning Man is not where divine unionship happens. It's where lust and debauchery happens.
Yeah, and that's why Burning Man's been connected to New Age, and and so
I think the word New Age has kind of lost its meaning, hasn't it? Really.
Well, that's the whole point of this live, is to talk about that and to say this is not it. This is not what we're doing. As we ascend, we're not there. We're not going there. We're trying to find. Twin flame is about the flame. The concept of flame is about burning karma, negative karma that's kept us looped in ignorance and amnesia. But I was going to say something about Aubrey. He talked about his jealousy. This is after they've decided this is going to work. She's with a guy who I've never seen called Joshua. And they decided to watch the sun rising in the Playas at Burning Man. And so he felt a little off. He was actually crying. So he talked about the rupture of his own jealousy that harms him. He actually talked about it. In fact, in that podcast with Caitlin. And yet he's decided that that's the way to ascension. And a lot of people feel it's very similar to being a Catholic monk and taking down your robe around your waist and whipping yourself with the cat o' nine tails. It's the same. That is not devotion to God. So letting the whip of jealousy whip you into a frenzy is not it. You're supposed to say, why am I jealous? What's going on? Let me heal that. Let me work with my partner on this. I feel safe because I'm all he wants, and he's all I want. And women who are in the twin flame journey understand that. That's why so many of them are fucking celibate. They won't let another man come in between them. It doesn't matter if the man's rich. It doesn't matter. It takes years for a twin flame feminine who's been betrayed by her twin flame masculine to ever take a lover. And it has to be like a high level.
I absolutely agree. Look, in the end, the separation and the hurt and the lessons that have to be healed from that betrayal, from that separation, is part of the journey. The twin flame journey can be brutal, but it is exceptionally elevating once you do heal.
Yeah. Well, Mama Yeti, I'm just going to send this to you, Mama Yeti. It's misspelled, whatever. She says, The only poly couple I hear that has succeeded is Dan Savage. I've never heard of him, so I can't comment. That's between two men, though. Does that make a difference? I think it does in some way. This is a very important question, because does having being a polyamorous relationship where it's the matriarch that has the two men who are her devoted lovers, and is this it? Well, I'm going to say that I feel, and again, I hate saying that, but I've been a man before. We all have, and we all have been women. That I feel that there's a genteel aspect to a woman who's going to do, not all, because we've got the Margaret Thatchers of the world and some real and some Hillary Clintons. So not all women are fucking good. Okay, so I'm going to take it from a point of view that in this case, I'm going to make it up, and not Savage himself, but two men and a woman. The woman is more likely to be hypersensitive to what those two men need. Her womb tells her who needs what. She is massively devoted to both those men. She is massively careful to make sure that they're honored and feel safe. Whereas men in the same position quite often don't give a fuck, or they create word salad, emotional landscapes of I really care about you, but I'm not changing. I want another woman and another woman. It's different. I'm not saying this for all women. Clearly, some women are fucking barracudas. Okay, they'll eat you up. They're black widows. But for this content of contrast, just to make it up, that's my takeaway. What is your takeaway? Why would that work better than a man and two women, or three or four?
Sorry, I listened to everything you said, but I couldn't quite get the context of the question. So, why would it make sense to be in an individual union instead of a polyamory union?
No. Why would it work well where there's two men and one woman? The woman is the matriarch of the love. So it's the woman who's got the two men as her lovers. Why would that be softer? Why would that be better? Or am I full of shit? Go ahead. I mean, if you don't agree.
I mean, like you're asking me how would I feel in that situation? I mean, the jealousy that I can immediately reflect on, no matter, I just hallucinate the situation.
Okay,
is that maybe he is a younger or more masculine man than me, physically more statuous, has got more to offer. You see what I mean? That would be a concern. And even if that isn't the concern, even if I'm better in every way physically, he might be a better emotional connection with her. And so the jealousy is, am I enough, and will I be loved? Right?
Right, exactly.
That is the same divine. Everybody is feeling the same, from baby all the way up to death. Is, am I enough, and will I be loved?
Absolutely. But now, he says, no, they are gay. So can I answer the gay? Because that I know. This is my hit on the gay, on gay men who are in a polyamorous relationship. Gay men. And this is, I remember from San Francisco, gay men are very, not all, but many of them are, when they're comfortable in their sexuality, not all of them are, by the way, but when they are comfortable in their sexuality, and they like to have fun, they like to bang, they like to have sex, they like the mystery, they like the excitement, they like the roughness, they like the tenderness. And so with gay men, it's a whole different game, because it's like three boys having fun with each other. It's not, there's going to be some jealousy. Don't get me wrong on that. But it's going to work out like three brothers hanging out together, three brothers working on this, that, and the other. It's going to be different. I think it would also be successful with three lesbians, honestly. But I think there would be more heightened emotional ramping up based on just the nature of the feminine, to be honest, the brain chemistry and all that. But like three boys having fun, oh fuck yeah, they'd have a fucking ball. They're like, one of them's great at fucking making pâté de foie gras, and the other guy is picking the wines, and and it sounds really like I'm putting, but I remember taking walks with my husband, Nick, right? And Nick and I, we were both in our 20s. We were like 20, walking in the heart of of the Castro Valley in San Francisco, and we would look at gay couples, and we would turn to each other and say, "Let's be like gay men. Got it. Let's get our shit together as feminine and masculine, and be like just gay men." We looked up to them as the perfect archetype of the divine couple in massive, powerful union. I'm not joking. Because we couldn't find a heterosexual couple. I'm not joking when I say that. We looked up to gay men who had been together 25 years, who had their shit together, their businesses together, and they enjoyed life, and they went on trips together. We looked up to them. So add another, brother into the mix, I could see them having a fucking ball, to be honest. I mean, and it might not be popular, and I don't give a fuck, because what are your thoughts? I mean, what do you think of what I just said about gay males together having a good time in a threesome?
Well,
It's hard. I mean, you may not agree with that, and that's okay.
I mean, just look at it from the point of view that, it's got nothing to do with the sexuality per se. It's more to do with the fact that it's not going to be about love, is it?
Oh,
it's most likely someone's going to get hurt if they develop feelings. If you're in a three situation, no matter the gender, someone is going to, if not all, get hurt in that situation. At the very least, if you are committed from one to another, there is a certain level of certainty there. You're not having people, other threats coming into the relationship. And the amount of, there was a while ago in probably 2021, I was looking, because the posts were coming up on my TikTok feed about like people talking about polyamorous relationships. And it was just interesting to watch what they were talking about. And in the comments, it was so clear. People were wounded. They were so hurt, and the jealousy was breaking the trust, and the trauma and the jealousy was really stopping people. They wanted to love, they wanted to open their hearts, but nobody was really healing. They were just moving on to the next, to the next, to the next, and never just re-traumatizing. That's what I noticed. And so this is the same reflection that we're getting, right?
Well,
it doesn't happen. It might not happen instantly, but at some point, somebody gets jealous or hurt or falls in love and is going to be rejected, not loved back the same amount. I mean, it's just.
I think trauma with the trauma of this generation is probably much more serious than it was in some cases. I think, because when
what is it that you see as a difference then?
Well, hang on, but what I saw with the gay population, the gay males in San Francisco in the 80s, friends of mine that were gay, that had their lovers, they had jealousy, they wouldn't work out on some aspects, but I saw a lot of couples that had been together 20, 25 years, and they would take in a lover, and they were fine with it because they could compartmentalize in a way that the mind of women can't. It's almost like
what you're pointing out is the brain chemistry difference. You're talking about the brain chemistry difference.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. So for me, when I was looking at gay men, I wanted to.
I've got a really good point to make in this. When you're ready, I've got a good point to make.
Jump in. Go ahead.
Okay, so you mentioned brain chemistry, and you're focusing on it as if only men have that capacity to compartmentalize. And I'm going to say, Bonnie Blue, she seems to have an exceptional ability to compartmentalize. And I believe that there are women with masculine brains and men with feminine brains, in terms of their prime energy or their focal divine essence,
No, but I know
it's just so. I'm sure. So we've kind of got to the point where it really depends on your dominant energy as to how you will behave in a relationship and whether you'll get hurt or. Well,
let's go back to Bonnie Blue. Okay, we've got. I keep saying this. And I mentioned it as a preface. There are women like Bonnie Blue and Hillary Clinton. Yes, I'm going to put them in the same pot. That are very masculine, and they're toxically masculine. Okay, and they are black, what I call black widows. I'm sorry, they fundamentally don't like, they fundamentally probably don't like men. Bonnie Blue claims she likes men, and it could be, but that she does. I don't see how, but anyway, because she sees them as tools to her trade.
So one comment she made was that she really likes to catch them young. If she could get them just at the age, just at the on their birthday, their 18th birthday,
right,
and that's their virginity, and she gets them, and this is the statement she used. She said, and she sees their toes curl as they do it for the first time.
right. And what does that
And
sound?
she's harnessing energy. She's doing the same thing, right? She's harnessing energy.
But what does it sound like? It looks like men harnessing the energy and virginity of girls. So she's definitely in her masculine era. I mean, her whole era is going to be masculine.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I don't think she's going to. So when you bring that up, it's like what I love about the gay mind of the masculine when he's gay is that he is trying, when they're healthy, and not just like we in the heterosexual community, we're not fucking always healthy. Let's be honest. We're fucking sick. We're trying to figure out how to be healthy sexually, emotionally, spiritually, all of the physically. Okay, so when a gay male, in my estimation, this is how I see it, they're very much in their masculinity, but they're very much in their femininity, and they somehow, those two flames seem to coexist with balance. And when my husband and I, in our very tender ages of 20, when for us to put them on a pedestal and go, we want to be like that, we want to be a power couple like that, because we never saw real heterosexual power couples. You got to remember, it was the 80s, and we weren't seeing it. Okay, women were still subservient, or they were a sex kitten, or they were, I mean, this is when John Derek and Bo Derek were he was a Swengali. That was the world we lived in. So you got to understand where we were coming from, where we were putting gay males 20 years in the fucking bag of committed relationships. Okay, don't get me wrong, I've been with my gay male friends where they go, yeah, he cheated on me, I had to leave. No, don't get me wrong, okay, but what I'm saying is the ones that were married and seemed to have their fucking total shit together, devoted to each other, devoted. Okay, there were no other picadillos. They were monogamous to each other. We admired them because they really, they had the feminine of, I'm going to get downloads, I'm going to find out what I'm going to do, we're going to get all these spiritual downloads, and they had the masculine, immediately, let's get it done. Hammer and toolbox, let's get it done, let's build that empire. And there was something that we saw, and of course, AIDS eradicated that population with a level of cruelty I've never seen. Well, not since I've been witnessing a genocide, but in a way it was allowed, by the medical no one was giving a fuck about that population. And yet it was a beautiful, beautiful thing to watch. And I'm glad I was alive and young to watch it. And that's where I'm coming from. I'm coming from that. So
I remember. Yeah, I remember when I was first starting out in my sort of business career, and I would sell websites. This was right early on, 2000. Like the .com boom had just sort of was on the edge of popping, and websites were selling like mad. And I sold a website to this gay couple who ran a florist in central London, right? And clearly they'd been married for a long time, been together a long time, and they were running this very successful florist. And it was kind of a joy to see, I mean, they liked me. I was a young man. Do you know what I mean? They flirted with me, but it was playful. It wasn't. Right. They wasn't actually expecting anything, but it was interesting to see that dynamic and how ultimately my beauty and youth at the time was an influence on them, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah, no, and
they bought what I was selling, and I'm sure it's helped their business a lot. But at the time, because it was like they were probably one of the first florists that could take orders over the internet at the time. So
that's exciting. So
it was mega exciting at the time. It really was, and
it was a hell of a good time then. But so that's what I'm talking about. And so what we need to do as a spiritual community, again, I keep coining ancient wisdom spiritual community, is to go back. And what do I mean by ancient wisdom? I actually don't mean from terra firma. I mean from when we were star seeds. And what I've found in all of my Akashic readings is divine unions. I'm not seeing fluckery. I mean, I saw one with my own past life with my twin in a very primal planet. I talk about it all the time where, yeah, we were, I'd say, polyamory, whatever. But we, you know, some of the primitive cultures that include, you know, the Polynesian, Samoan, and other types of cultures that were in those days primitive, had no problems with polyamory, free sex with each other, and all of that. That was actually well documented. And but it lacked, and this is me from looking at it from a surface point of view. Okay, definitely not going deep into it. But some of these primitive cultures lack.
Hey, Gemma. Yeah.
They lack spiritual, you know, like a center, an integrity, if you will. And many of these primitive cultures, for all we know, were fallouts from the deluge, the great deluge, and where they were literally scattered and to just survive, and they've survived ever since in a primitive way, right? And so when I look at some of the things that we still have that we can look at from the ancient beyond, for example, Isis Osiris and her and Isis's devotion to Osiris, her devotion looking for his pieces, right? All his body parts, and trying to find him and trying to bring him back together, and then using his lingam to seed her womb to bring about Horus, right? That's Starseed story.
Yeah.
There's no fucking way this is.
That is a Starseed story. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, you know, we are being bastardized with people like Aubrey Marcus and the polyamory community, that they've brought in all their heathens, they've brought all their sexual weird fucking hang-ups.
It's spiritual hedonism, and I've noticed that phrase used by a few of the psychic and spiritual people on YouTube when I've been hunting around for information. And it's sad because it's made a mockery of the divine feminine in that relationship. I think it's a betrayal, and he's not aware of it, and it's so obvious in the way he's reacting in that reaction video, right? He's crying and saying how he, you know, feels so sad, and now he's got to deal with, like, the hardest. One thing he said was, "It's been the hardest month of my life." But he has the capacity. He has the capacity to sit there for a whole month and just cry. You know, he doesn't have to work. He's not dying in Palestine. He's, you know, I mean, crikey, there's so many worse things that could be happening that are simply not. He's, you know, he's suffering the consequences of his spiritual hedonism, being projected onto the, you know, without awareness. He has not got spiritual awareness. Clearly, Mark Gaffney is partly to blame for this, because he has gaslit the whole thruple's been gaslit by him, haven't they?
And the fact is that if you're going to take someone, you better do some research. When I take on a client, the first thing I do is I talk to them for like 15, 20 minutes before we even book a session. And then I send them videos on what I do, what I am, so on, so they can see where I'm coming from. And, you know, the fact, well, I mean, and the fact that I stand for Gaza and I stand for the Palestinian people's right to fucking exist and thrive, not being starved to death, and all of that really did a number on my business. But I stand with it. And what I found with many of these spiritual, that's the other thing that pisses me off with the Aubrey Marcuses of the world, these spiritually supposed gurus that haven't said one fucking word about what's happening with Sudan, the Congo, and you know, and how do we harness cobalt without 12-year-olds never making it to 13 in the Congo? How do we make it so that, you know, the profit margins for Apple and other Android phone makers is less, so that the Congoan people are living in wet, soaked tents and getting tuberculosis and other diseases? How do we do that?
It's a tragic story, and I don't know how in the short term we do it, but in the long term, in 5 to 10 years, they will perfect Android robots, and if hopefully it's done in a way that ethically allows the population of the world to live in abundance instead of the forced debt and inflation poverty that we have. You know, this wage slavery, if you want to call it that. I mean, again, perhaps I'm tarnishing myself with these labels, and I shouldn't do. But they are factually correct, right? Everyone suffers from the money in their bank being worth less today than it was yesterday or a year ago.
I've had to raise my prices on my services because it's insane. Like I remember going to my mechanic saying, we're especially during COVID, we can't get parts, and the parts were backlogged. We can't get a picture part. In other words, all kinds of things were happening that finally here we are sitting there, and I know right now, like Andromeda Flame sent me an itemized idea of her grocery bill as compared to mine, and mine is 3 times her fucking bill on the same item. The avocado, a head of lettuce, and she's paying 1/3 less than what I'm paying. So when you have the Aubrey Marcus of the world, like Jeff Bezos, who can't figure out, like Jeff Bezos is no better than Walmart. Okay, he's got people on food stamp working at Amazon. Okay, and he's got a $50 million wedding coming up. And he's with a bimbo. He's marrying, I'm sorry, fuck it, I'm judging, a bimbo with fake tits, fake lips, fake everything. And it's like, and what is this? And I'd love to have David Icke tell me, what is this? What is going on? What is this weird?
I've got an interesting question for you, because like whenever you use these props to accentuate your natural beauty, is that not an extension of like any sort of emotional, spiritual, characteristic mask that a man might wear? It's a kind of similar deception in a way. Do you believe that?
I don't know, honestly. I don't know about that. All I know is that the deception is to take $50 million and think that that's going to keep them married in 10 years. And
I mean, in the end, authenticity is about aligning with your truth and speaking your truth. You know, what you wear and how you make yourself look attractive is kind of an extension of that authenticity.
Well, and the reason why I was so brutal is because she's not coming from a divine feminine who's a certain age that says, I need a facelift, I need a tit job, but I'm with it. This is a woman who's like outrageously trying to capture the male gaze, and she's so
so it's not done with a true intent; it's done with a manipulation intent.
I have no problems with women making themselves look better and still being within the realm of their power as a gorgeous goddess who's now in her 60s or 70s, and she's a gorgeous goddess. I mean, I met Lena Horne when she was 66. When I was like 19, actually. I was 19 years old. I started the bookstore, and then I saw her perform. Her skin was flawless. She was sexy as fuck. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I hope I look like that when I'm old, which unfortunately I haven't, but that's not in here or there. But the point is, she was something to look up to, a woman to look up to in that way. But when I look at a woman who is acting like she's 29 and the man she's with, I have a very expansive mind that goes into dark hallways, and I've got people like David Icke that as my that second voice, if you will, and I wonder how eyes wide shut are they in their union. What do I mean by that? Watch the movie Eyes Wide Shut. Is that because it makes no sense on paper? It makes absolutely no sense on the visual. It makes no sense. And what's weird about him is how he made. Do you understand? I bought my first book from his website in 1988, 1998, when you had to. I think it was earlier than that actually, where you had to put in your credit card and then call in for the rest of your credit card for them to take your order. You couldn't just put your whole credit card. They took a portion of it, and I'll never forget that.
I remember that. I'm clearly not as young as you think I am.
Yeah, I am shocked that you know that, but I remember doing that, and so I was an Amazon fucking raw queen, and to see how he treats his people. So my point is, so we know by just looking at her, and we're going to just say that. I'm going to say that. I'm taking full responsibility. When you look at her overt sexuality and her overt sexualization of herself, right? Then we know that they're not doing something with just each other. It's common sense. It's just common sense. Shit's happening. There's probably, other people involved in their intimate moments, right? Not always, but I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it strongly because she's a freak, and you can see it. And it's like, and I'm fine with people who are being freaks. But what happens is that they're so busy fucking, and this is the problem I have, that they don't see what is happening with the planet and how so many millions of people, especially children, are suffering. Meanwhile, they're gonna
Yeah,
have
it's very true.
this is so Marie Antoinette moment bullshit. It is so, let me show you my wealth before the people start pulling out their little guillotine earrings. You know, there are guillotine earrings being sold right now on Etsy. I'm not joking. Okay. So we're talking about some dangerous shit. They're kind of dumb. I'm sorry. They're kind of dumb. And what's interesting is you've got the Candace Owens of the world coming out saying something, going, what the fuck are you people doing? Meanwhile, she's doing all kinds of expose on Macron's wife being a man. Okay. And so the level, meanwhile, Joan Rivers died saying that Obama's wife was not a wife. I'll start choking. That Michelle was
But
Michael.
isn't this just the media distracting people from the actual important material things that are going on? I'm not saying there aren't spiritual things going on. There obviously are, but
No, there are spiritual things going on. This has nothing to do with distractions at all, because no, this is what is going on with the 1%, that they're doing all kinds of bait and switch, all kinds of weird sexualization, all kinds of weird shit that Stanley Kubrick made a movie, Eyes Wide Shut, and he had a contract where you could never cut his movie. He had final cut. And somehow he suddenly died, and they, like, literally 3 weeks after his movie was going to be released, he died, and they cut 28 minutes or 24 minutes, whatever. Fucking 20 plus minutes were cut. That movie is the 1% in action. That's my point. And that deviant egregore is trickling down into the new age, because that was the point of this live, not about Aubrey Marcus really, but the trickling down of the fractured truth of the new age, which fuck new age, the ascension path we're all on, and our own ability to sexually
I agree with that.
ourselves. Yeah. So take it away, my loves. Go ahead. What do you think of that? How can you expand?
Oh, I mean, let's try and define the direction in which I go, because there's many paths in which I could take this conversation on for a long time. It's very clear to me that whether he knows it or not, there's some sort of forces at play here that would very much like to stop the ascension of divine union in individuals, you know, to come to their fully realized selves, and then into divine union in couples. I mean, what does this do? It helps to bring about a level of discernment and action that goes way beyond the 3D world that we're seeing at this very moment. And I've talked about it in the past, but let's just hit a few bullet points of what I mean. Education. It does not teach children how to become young adults, and it's no more clearer now than it has ever been when you look at the way the technology that includes AI and the internet and the rapid changes that are going on. It does not prepare them for that. But more importantly than that, where have they talked about narcissism and green and red flags in relationships? They only seem to talk about being safe and using protection when you get physically involved in intimacy with somebody. Nothing about emotions. No real understanding about how your heart can be broken by becoming too physically involved with somebody too quickly. The bonding, the lack of bonding, if you over-X with people. I mean, there's so much obvious lack of awareness that would rapidly change if you had more spiritually aware collectives in union leading society, or even small communities, to kind of create this better educational system. And then we've got to talk about the food, right?
Yes.
Do you think every broccoli is the same? No, not at all. If you have a pasture-raised field with cows and sheep and chickens raising if you know who Joel Salatin is, he grew inches of topsoil that made the crops that he grew on that soil 10 times more nutritionally dense than any other food that had ever been tested before. And this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about where you can eat a piece of broccoli and it's like the quality and nutrients that you wouldn't be able to get in even the best nutraceutical, pharmaceutical, herbal remedies. It's just things are about to get so much better if we can align with that, and we will. But this is where it gets really esoteric, right? You either accept that we are always moving timelines down or up on the spiral of ascension, and where we are, it's your own personal choice. You get to be wherever you want to be. And so do I.
Well,
and be wherever you want to be. And so do I.
Well,
and there are a million, billion, 7 billion, trillion realities at all times in which we can gradually move and ascend one way or the other, all based on our intentions and actions.
Right.
I don't know if you believe that, but it's something that I've learned to accept. I've learned to accept. Whether I believe it or not is kind of immaterial. It becomes a reality that you can't ignore, because the synchronicities that prove it to me are undeniable. That might be too much for some people. I don't know. I'd be interested to have any comment.
No.
What else? Well, I've talked about spirituality. I've talked about relationships. I've talked about the quality of food. I mean, there's housing, there's love and relationship, there's, clearing the energetic fields, aligning with your chakra energy centers, and getting spiritual downloads and following the God's will, the path, right? That in and of itself really nullifies so much of this confusion and distraction, that's going on, because it becomes outside of the reality that you care about.
Well,
I don't know if that makes sense to you, right?
Well, what I'm gonna just encapsulate in a nutshell is that the fractures that have happened, the trickle down effect from the 1% into the New Age community, is not here. It is there to confuse you, and you just turn your back on it. You call it out. You go, anything that actually triggers you in a negative place that makes you angry, take that anger and turn it. You do not let it ruminate. Do not let it eat you up. All these concerns of purity of food, you and I both know that the 1% have the best food on the planet. You know that they have the best herbalists and doctors who are alternative healers and so forth. We all know this by now, okay? So the New Age movement has been hijacked. So you turn your back on the New Age movement and you find small little hermit-like healers. You find little people like us, like Mark and me, and Andromeda Flame and Jennifer and other people, and you move into your own meditations and your own co-creations of your own little group, and you stay the path, and you turn your back on the fuckery of these motherfuckers, because at the end of the day, they've infiltrated every fucking thing to stop us from ascending, including the calcification of our pineal gland using fluoride. We know this now. If you don't know this, then you're late to the game, because we know this.
So what is that based in? Can we highlight what is controlling them or leading and influencing them?
Well, I mean, read David Icke. I don't agree.
I want to highlight it in some sort of fundamental terms. I believe that it's fear and control. So greed is a fear-based motivation or action. It's the fear of either being called out, ultimately suffering consequences for their actions, and so whatever their action is now based in fear of being held to account, and that is what is propelling this action now. It is fear. It is greed because of fear. I mean, there's more nuance to it, but that is really fundamental, boiling it down to the brass tacks,
Well, because they lose their quality of life, because they need all of us, whether we're American.
So no, I believe that's a fear-based motivation, because at some point, the amount of abundance that the technology of imagine you can have AI understand how to naturally improve the quality of our topsoil and the produce, the organic, unmodified, unkept, non-sprayed, organically grown stuff. Imagine that's all done using robotic technology.
Yeah.
So no human need put effort in unless they're doing it for love and interest on their own.
Yeah.
We are not far away from that being a reality. But the challenge is, for some reason, and it may be the it may be the dark forces at bay. They cannot exist on this plane if there is too many ascended beings. And so it's not necessarily just the fear of that. It is the influencing entities that are taking over.
Right. Well, we know from David Icke, giving credit to this man, is that they siphon off our energies. So what's interesting is you've got a Aubrey Marcus, I can't get his name, Aubrey Marcus going in and siphoning off energy from Alana, then dropping in that energy into Alana, all this fuckery, right? And so what's happening with the 1% is they siphon off our fear, our impotent rage, our despair, our depressions, and it siphons through them through into the nefarious entities on the other side of the veils. It's really that simple. And that's it. And so
and so I can't stay on this live for too much longer because we've been 2.5 hours almost. But look, it's so important that we don't leave people in fear and negativity because, even though all of this is going on, once you have discernment and you don't live in the fear of it, it can't touch you.
It can't touch you. So if you've missed this live, it's really important that you start from the beginning. There's a pre-live that you see. It's a man walking away with butterflies all over him. Definitely watch that one. It's really important. And it's a pre-live to this one. This is like going to be part 1 and part 2. And watch this one to its entirety because really you need to realize that you are in full control, as Mark was saying, the potency of your ascension lies directly in your hands. Do not be influenced by assholes, by people who you think you look up to because they have more money than you, or your idea of they're more successful than you. Success is not a material game you'll ever win when the 1% are playing it against you. It's like going to the roulette table and the house always win damn near. So don't play that game. But the game of 5D, 3D minded motherfuckers can't beat you at 5D, 6D. No one can touch you then. I'm not joking. No one can touch you. And just hang out with people like this. Hang out with people who get that you are the final battle is here. The final battle is your mind. It's your mind. What you think is real becomes real. That's it. If you can harness your mind, you're good to go. And yeah, you're going to have depression. You're going to feel alone. Please find groups like ours. Find people like us. If you're alone and you don't have people like us that you can have these conversations with, we're right here. We're fucking right here. Right, Mark?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, once you develop that discernment and you have the awareness and you put in practices so that you can calm the mind, get into meditation, make sure you rest the body, nourish the body, and then seek partnership, seek union with other like-minded people. That is the key here. You cannot do it totally on your own.
No. Beautiful. All right, so watch the whole live. It'll be on Sacred Intimacy Tarot on YouTube. Follow me on YouTube, and please follow Water Bear Medicine.
Water Bear Medicine.
I mean, follow him right now. He's right here because there's a lot of people acting like there's other people, and it's kind of weird. Any questions or comments before we let you go? Any questions or comments? Thank you for all being here. Many of you were here for the damn near 2 hours, 2.5 hours. I appreciate you guys. Yeah. And any other last questions? I
believe that this is all of the wars and stuff like that. It is trying to drag you down, and the spiritual war is: will you end up suffering in your coping strategies and the fear? And we have to rise above that. You know,
Yeah.
we have to make sure that we have the faith of knowing this too shall pass. It cannot last. It will not last. It will get better. It will improve. And you know, we do not live in suffering if we live in the present. This is so important. When you live in the present, how much time you live in suffering is how much time and attention you give to the circumstances that cause your suffering. And that means don't watch the news. Of course, you can put attention and charity to situations and things that are out of our control, but we want to help. We can put a little bit of money towards that. We can retweet things so that, you know, we keep some awareness of the atrocities in the world. But if you spend all your time worrying about it, that's not going to help you. That's going to drag you down.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, isn't it? That spiritual gaslighting thing is really like there is a balance between paying attention to what's important, but also looking after yourself. That balance is key here. So I wish you all the best. Thank you. Are you still there?